Silence unfolds like a gray canvas on my tired skin. My hands, marked by years of invisible servitude, tremble with the revelation of a profound truth. We were not born to work. Existence is not a production machine, but a flash of freedom interrupted by the cruel geometry of the system. If this video and channel add value to you, subscribe, activate the notification bell, and leave a like or comment. I recall the words of Bataille, that philosopher who tore away the veils of normality. Human activity is essentially nothing other than expenditure. We are not cogs. We are not figures on a balance sheet. We are fire. We are desire. We are the explosion of energy that resists being domesticated by the economic structure that consumes us. I look at my hands. Each wrinkle tells a story of submission. Each scar is a testament to resistance. How many hours have we given to the god of work? How many dreams have we sacrificed on the altar of productivity? Life should not be a slavery contract signed every morning with the first sip of bitter coffee. Bataille whispered the truth that no one wants to hear. Working is a form of death, a slow, calculated death that strips us of our original power. We become shadows, pale replicas of what we could be. The capitalist machine devours us. Every second is a fragment torn from our existence, transformed into exchange value, into merchandise. Nietzsche was right when he described how society domesticates us, turns us into work animals, into predictable creatures who exchange their time for meaningless coins. I remember that gray morning when the world seemed like an immense windowless factory. The faces around me, masks of fatigue and resignation. No one looks up. No one dares to break the ritual of obedience. We are programmed automatons. Our movements are repetitive codes. Our dreams have been reduced to a line on a resume. It is not work that defines us. It is the power of the useless, the ability to waste time, to enjoy, to experience existence beyond productivity. Bataille understood that the true revolution is not in the factory, but in the moment we decide to tear ourselves away from the logic of performance. Freedom is not measured in overtime hours, but in moments of pure intensity. In that fleeting moment where consciousness explodes and we recognize ourselves as beings infinitely greater than our job functions. Pain accumulates in the muscles, in the bones. Not the physical pain of labor, but that other deeper pain, that of alienation. Every morning we get up and negotiate with the system a fragment of our freedom. We sell our vital energy for a salary that barely keeps us functioning, like machines that require minimum fuel to continue producing. Michel Foucault understood it masterfully. Power not only controls us from the outside, it inhabits us. We have become our own watchmen, internalizing discipline, accepting the perverse logic that reduces our existence to a usable resource. We work not only for money, but for a mirage of social validation, for the recognition of a system that fragments us. But there is a moment, a fleeting instant, where everything stops, where consciousness expands beyond the walls of the office, beyond schedules and contracts. A moment where we remember that we are not what we produce, that our essence cannot be measured in hours, in performance, in efficiency. Life pulsates beyond work. It is a torrent of possibilities that the system tries to contain, domesticate, reduce. We are a river, not a dam. We are fire, not controlled fuel. When did we lose the capacity for wonder? At what exact moment did our eyes become empty and we began to walk through the world like automatons? Work is not just an activity. It is a control device that strips us of our original power. It reduces us to our minimum expression, interchangeable cogs in a machinery that does not understand the value of the useless, of the unproductive. The true revolution is not in changing the conditions of work, but in its total negation. Work is what hides life from us, Bataille would write, challenging the very core of our social organization. Each contract is a small death, each workday a ritual of submission, where we sell the most intimate fragments of our existence. The philosophers of expenditure remind us that there is a power in the unproductive, in senseless spending, in energy released beyond any utilitarian calculation. We are not resources, we are not human capital. We are fire, we are desire, we are the infinite possibility of being more than what the system prescribes for us. The silence of a free afternoon is more revolutionary than any strike. The ability to waste time, to experience existence without the tyranny of performance, that is the true act of rebellion. I contemplate my hands. They are no longer just instruments. They are witnesses of a silent resistance. Each wrinkle tells a story of submission, but also of potential rebellion. The body holds the memory that the system tries to erase, that primordial energy that strives to break free from imposed limits. Society programs us to be efficient, to be productive, but we forget that true wealth is not measured in hours worked, but in moments lived with intensity. Every minute stolen from work is a small victory, an act of reclaiming our fundamental dignity. Bataille understood that existence cannot be reduced to an economic calculation. We are beings of excess, of waste, of energy that overflows any attempt at containment. We were not born to be resources. We were born to be fire, to burn, to expand, to experience life beyond the narrow borders of productivity. Freedom is not an abstract concept. It is that moment when you decide that your time belongs to you, when you break the invisible chain that binds us to the work table, when you discover that life is much more than fulfilling a schedule, much more than being a perfect cog in the machine of capital. Sweat condenses on the forehead, not as a result of physical effort, but of inner tension. We understand now that working is a more subtle control mechanism than any chain. They domesticate us with promises of security, with the illusion of a future built on the basis of systematic obedience. But there is a moment of rupture, an instant where consciousness explodes and we understand that our existence is much more than a succession of tasks, more than a curriculum vitae, more than a series of calculated performances. We are poetry in motion. We are the infinite possibility of being more than what is prescribed. The true revolution will not come from unions, nor from labor reforms. It will come from the moment when each individual understands that their life does not belong to the boss, does not belong to the state, does not belong to the system. It belongs solely and exclusively to themselves. Let us remember Deleuze. We must manufacture a bit of surface of contact and opening. Work closes us off, reduces us, fragments us. Freedom expands us, connects us, recomposes us. Silence becomes denser than any discourse. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a consciousness that awakens. We understand that every minute stolen from work is an act of rebellion. Every moment of contemplation, a micro-revolution against the system that wants to reduce us to mere units of production. Life pulsates beyond the walls of the office, beyond contracts and schedules. There's a universe of possibilities that opens up when we dare to look beyond the immediate, when we stop being slaves of time, measured in money, and begin to be inhabitants of lived time. Georges Bataille whispers to us from his philosophy, "Existence is not measured, it is experienced. We are not what we produce. We are what we feel, what we imagine, what we dare to be beyond any external imposition. Each breath is a declaration of freedom, each thought a breaking of the invisible chains that imprison us. The most radical revolution is the one that occurs within each being, when they decide to tear themselves away from the logic of performance and recover the power of the useless, of the unproductive, of the truly human. The body holds the memory of each submission, of each hour stolen from existence. We are not machines, programmed for constant production. We are beings of desire, of contradiction, of impulses that overflow any rational structure. Work mutilates us, fragments us, reduces us to an impoverished version of our infinite potentiality. We think of moments of true freedom. They are not those planned, measured, or produced, but the fleeting instants where consciousness expands beyond any imposed limit. A sunset contemplated without haste, an embrace that suspends time, a thought that seeks not performance, but pure experience. The critique of work is not a call to laziness, but to the recovery of our vital energy. Bataille teaches us that there is a power in waste, in unproductive expenditure, in those moments where life is lived without calculation, without measure, without the tyranny of efficiency. We resist, not with the violence of direct combat, but with the subtlety of one who understands that the true revolution occurs in the interstices, in the spaces where the system fails to penetrate. Everything culminates, but nothing ends. Life is a constant flow that no system can completely contain. We understand now that our existence is an act of permanent subversion, a silent challenge to the logic that seeks to reduce us to mere instruments of production. We were not born to work. We were born to be fire, to be poetry, to be that indefinable moment where consciousness expands beyond any imposed frontier. Freedom is not a destination. It is a constant process of recovering our original power. Bataille left us as a legacy the deepest understanding. Life is not measured. It is experienced. Each breath is a declaration of rebellion. Each thought, a breaking of the invisible chains that try to domesticate us. We are more than numbers on a spreadsheet, more than interchangeable resources, more than cogs in the machinery of capital. And yet, we continue, not with violence, but with the intensity of one who understands that every moment lived to the fullest is an act of revolution.